Joining us now to discuss Bitcoin and more is CoinDesk Director of Data and Indexes, Galen Moore in Boston. Hey there, Galen. So we just had this Fed announcement. Appears that the stock market is reacting favorably. So are the crypto markets. What do you make of this unchanged policy, but a signal toward tapering in the coming years?
I think some analysts have noted, Christine, that that Bitcoin has become a kind of a risk appetite metric. And I think you see that here. Bitcoin basically following the moves of the S&P leading up to the Fed chair's comments today, and then in reaction there too as well, kind of giving back some of the gains on the day. So I think sort of maybe too early to say, well, correlation is here between Bitcoin and risk-on investments, but certainly notable that we can see that at least in a short-term way, the two move together. I do agree that it's not a month in which we're going to see the price moved by the options market, as we have noted in some past months. There's just too much going on the macro stage, and that may continue. The geopolitical kind of instability in Afghanistan and with allies in Europe, between the U.S. and European allies. It's been at times in the past, we've seen events like that move the price of Bitcoin, notably in January 2020 when the U.S. Assassinated the Iranian general Qasem Soleimani. So I don't think that's happening right now. I don't think the markets are. I don't think anybody sold or bought Bitcoin on France withdrawing its envoys from Washington. But I do think that it will be worth watching those geopolitical news and events in terms of potential signals for the coming months.
Well, it's interesting, and that's been a theme this week, that often there are folks who like to argue that Bitcoin is independent from traditional markets. But in this case, we do see Bitcoin reacting generally along with traditional markets and those larger macroeconomic impacts. So,
short term again, Christine, I mean, broadly speaking, Bitcoin remains this magically uncorrelated asset. And I think that, whether that's changing is something to watch, but I don't think we can say that that's changed yet.
All right. What about headwinds from China as well? That was also a concern among traditional markets, that the real estate market could collapse because of Evergrande defaulting on its debts by Thursday. So are those concerns for Bitcoin in your view, as well as talk about the debt ceiling coming up in mid-October, November?
Right. I mean, events like the U.S. government defaulting on its debt, you would actually, in the sort of Bitcoin's broader narrative, view that as a very positive event for Bitcoin. To the extent that Bitcoin is digital gold, to the extent that investors have less faith in governments, Bitcoin benefits. And I do think it goes back to a question of risk on or risk off, and Bitcoin is very clearly behaving like a risk on asset. If Bitcoin is digital gold at some point in the future, any investment in Bitcoin as digital gold is a speculation that will happen at some point in the future. It is not some kind of a risk-off hedge, at least in the market today. And I think, the reaction to Evergrande by Bitcoin, to the Evergrande news by Bitcoin, by stock markets, very similar. You see people, whoa, holy smoke, something bad might be happening here, pull out, get some cash. And I think, we'll probably continue to see that pattern unless something, really major happens to it.
I also had the opportunity to see you in New York recently. You were here attending the Mainnet conference, and I'm wondering, as you attended some of those panels, what were some of the themes and some of the concerns that you saw patterns in among people in the crypto industry?
Sure. Well, there's plenty of talk about regulation, notably a rumor that one of the maybe panelists had been served by with a subpoena or some other kind of legal document by the SEC, perhaps while on his or her way to the stage. I'm not sure whether that actually happened, but it's certainly a dramatic story and reflects I think the environment, one of our analysts at CoinDesk, Teddy Osterban, noted in the Valid Points newsletter this week, which covers the Ethereum ecosystem, the sort of waning enthusiasm for some of the DeFi governance tokens vis-a-vis Ether itself. And I think, some of that is probably the market starting to cool off a little bit, noting that that DeFi area has been in the comments coming out of the regulators fairly frequently lately. So that was certainly a theme. The sort of rise of new layer ones and interoperability between them is also a significant theme. And that's one that affects Bitcoin in a major way as people look for ways to deploy Bitcoin and invest it in different decentralized applications and and DeFi applications on the Ethereum network and other layer one networks as well.